The question of whether niacin can match NR, nicotinamide riboside, and NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, in activating sirtuins, particularly SIRT1 and SIRT3, goes to the heart of the current NAD renaissance in aging research. Sirtuins are NAD-dependent deacetylases that play central roles in regulating metabolism, DNA repair, inflammation, and mitochondrial function. Since their activity depends on intracellular NAD levels, any precursor that raises NAD can, in principle, stimulate sirtuin activity. But the biochemical context, the tissue distribution, conversion kinetics, and compartmentalized NAD pools greatly influences how effectively that happens. While NR and NMN are often promoted as superior sirtuin activators due to their salvage pathway engagement, this assumption is not always justified. In fact, niacin, when administered correctly, and especially in tissues with active price handler pathway expression, can activate sirtuins effectively, though its pathway and systemic effects are different, and that difference matters. To begin with, sirtuins are not uniformly distributed across tissues, nor are they activated equally by NAD in all compartments. SIRT1 is primarily nuclear and cytosolic, with high expression in liver, brain, muscle, and adipose tissue. SIRT3 is mitochondrial, particularly abundant in energy-demanding tissues like skeletal muscle, heart, and liver. All sirtuins require NAD as a co-substrate for their deacetylase activity, which means their function is directly responsive to fluctuations in intracellular NAD. This is the core of the case for NAD precursors in age-related decline. By restoring NAD levels, one can potentially restore sirtuin function and thus enhance genomic stability, mitochondrial efficiency, and stress resistance. NR and NMN enter this process via the salvage pathway. Once taken up by the cell, in NR's case directly, in NMN's case likely after extracellular conversion to NR, they are phosphorylated to NMN and then converted into NAD by NMNATs. This route is fast and operates in many tissues that express high levels of NEMPT and NRK, including muscle and brain. This is why NR and NMN have been shown in multiple studies to elevate NAD and increase sirtuin activity, particularly SIRT1 and SIRT3, in these tissues. Their short metabolic route may favor rapid and localized sirtuin activation, especially where salvage enzymes are well expressed. However, niacin follows a different, but no less important path. Through the price handler pathway, niacin is converted by NAPRT into NAMN, then to NAD, and finally into NAD by NMNATs. This route is most active in liver, kidney, spleen, and immune cells, where NAPRT is abundantly expressed. Studies show that niacin raises NAD levels robustly in these tissues, and evidence from both animals and humans confirms that this can lead to sirtuin activation. For instance, in the liver, a central hub of metabolic and inflammatory regulation, niacin-induced NAD replenishment has been associated with increased SIRT1 activity, reduced hepatic fat accumulation, and improved insulin sensitivity. Similarly, SIRT3, which governs mitochondrial detoxification and fatty acid oxidation, is responsive to NAD, increases from niacin in tissues like liver and heart. A key point often missed in comparisons is that while NR and NMN may raise NAD, in tissues where the salvage pathway dominates, niacin may do so more efficiently in others, particularly where NEMPT expression is low or suppressed, as is common in aging, chronic inflammation, and metabolic disease. Under these conditions, niacin's NEMPT-independent route becomes more than just a backup. It becomes essential. This is especially relevant because sirtuin activity declines not only due to NAD loss but also due to metabolic dysfunction that downregulates the salvage pathway. By bypassing this bottleneck, niacin can restore sirtuin activity in otherwise inaccessible tissues. The argument that NR and NMN are better sirtuin activators is thus context-dependent. Their localized, salvage-based NAD restoration can be ideal in certain tissues, e.g., brain or muscle, but they require functioning transporters and intact enzymatic systems. Niacin, in contrast, may offer broader systemic sirtuin activation by elevating NAD in liver, blood, and immune cells. Moreover, studies have shown that niacin can improve mitochondrial biogenesis, antioxidant defense, and lipid oxidation, hallmarks of SIRT1 and SIRT3 activity. even if the kinetics differ slightly from those of NR or NMN. It is also worth noting that niacin's longer systemic half-life and receptor-mediated effects via GPR109A may provide additive benefits that indirectly support sirtuin function, such as reducing inflammation and improving vascular tone, two processes that often suppress sirtuin expression. NR and NMN, while NAD boosting, do not provide this parallel pathway of support. In conclusion, niacin is absolutely capable of activating sirtuins, particularly SIRT1 and SIRT3, provided it reaches tissues with active price handler pathways and is dosed appropriately. While NR and NMN may offer rapid salvage pathway NAD replenishment in select tissues, they are not inherently superior, just different. Their metabolic fates make direct comparisons misleading unless one accounts for tissue type, enzymatic environment, and pathological context. Niacin's contribution to sirtuin biology is not only valid but indispensable in many systemic and metabolic conditions, especially where salvage-based routes are impaired.